Okay. Hi, Tracee. How are you?
I'm doing good, Douglas. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Nice to
Thank
have
you
you
for
here.
having me.
So, you're an author. You've got a couple of books, and it says on your bio, international best-selling author. Actually, you've got more, don't you? You have like 20 books, it says.
I do. I do. Yes.
Okay. How long have you been writing?
I've been writing really all my life, but I really didn't start publishing professionally until I was in my college years, about 23, 24, who's counting, years ago. I was in college, failing my academics a little bit. So I saw a writing contest online and I entered it. I won the grand prize and it just changed my life.
So, have you been writing for a living ever since that?
No, I still have my full-time job as a peer counselor for a small nonprofit outside of DC, but I definitely do my writing. It's still a professional career to me. I have deadlines and things that I set for myself, and every night and weekend, that's where you'll find me is writing my books. And sometimes early in the morning before I get started with my workday, I write really every chance I get, every time an opportunity presents itself, even while waiting for a doctor's appointment. I'll use dictation and write that way too.
Wow, that's great. So, 20 books. Are these all different genres, or are you specific to one type of book?
Pretty much. I am specific to romance. My heart is in romantic suspense. So I love a little love on the side, but I also love car chases and things blowing up and people trying to kill you. So that's always resonated with me. I love the romantic suspense, but I do delve a little bit into inspirational self help and motivation. I've written a couple books on there. And I also, since I've been in this writing game for so long, I do have a series of five books. One is out now, a second one coming out this year that will be for writers and kind of writing instruction and writing reference, kind of a how to for writers.
Before we get to the books that I've got here, I've got Author Life Fix and Disability and Anecdotal Field Guide for the Rest of Us. That's an interesting title. Um, since you've been in this business for so long, is there one particular piece of advice that you would offer to somebody who aspires to be a writer?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, there's so much advice, but the main thing to me is that early in my career, I had a book deal for three books, and I really just wish I'd have wrote faster as I've kind of grown in these 20 plus years in writing. Write a little bit faster and learn the craft faster. I think there's so much information out here about writing books that there really is no excuse not to learn all you can about the writing industry, about how to get a book deal, about working with your editor and really beefing up your career. So that's just something that I have my own little complex about. I'm kind of the tortoise, just slow and steady, but always still winning my own race that I've set out for myself. But I just think people can do more, go a little bit further, and learn more in the early stages because there's just such a sense of urgency, and time really does wait for no man. You really have to seize the moment and capitalize on things really while you're young and while it's hot and before you get going. And soon you'll have 20 books, and it's like, oh my gosh, where did the time go?
I'm going to assume that when you first started, there was no such thing as self publishing, correct?
That's right. That's right. Self-publishing really has only really taken off. I did self-publish one of my books early on, about I want to say 2007, and even then, it did not command the respect that it receives right now. Right now, it's all the rage. There's something wonderful about charting your own course. The self-publishing industry and the books that are out now are beautiful and can really go up against the traditionally published books. But you're right, early on, it was a rough road. Nobody wanted one. And now people are, indie authors making millions of dollars, six figures, some of them. So it really can be a lucrative profession, a well-respected one. And we've only really gained that, I would say, in the last 10 years.
So are you self publishing now, or are you with a publisher?
I am self-publishing now. My first three books were traditionally published, and I always think about going back to a traditional publisher, but there's something about doing it all yourself. There's something about wearing all the hats, and it's just wonderful. And plus, I don't have to wait for anybody to tell me I'm good enough. I think that that is the leading reason to self-publish is just that you will hit so many walls of rejection initially, and that doesn't mean you're not good, but it's hard to accept that you are good. It's just that sometimes you're waiting for other people to realize how good you are, and that can be painful and depressing and take a really good chunk of your life that you're just sitting around waiting, submitting, and not getting the nibbles that you really deserve. So there are still a lot of gatekeepers that kind of determine what the world reads, and indie authors can say, nope, I'm going to offer this because the world reads this too.
What would be the benefit of going with a traditional publisher then? Do you see one?
Yeah, there still are so many benefits. Sometimes when you self-publish, you won't reach those milestones as soon as you can. Sometimes when you're traditionally published, you won't have to do everything as far as the editing, finding a cover designer. If you're doing a children's book, finding illustrators, that can get very costly. And so sometimes that is a deterrent to self-publishing because the marketing department in a traditional house will do all of that for you. So you can focus on the writing, but at the same time, sometimes you'll have to kind of do what they say. You'll have to use the cover images that they want you to use because they have a marketing department that is kind of all knowing. Even if you know a little bit more about your market, you'll have to be kind of at their mercy. And that could be a good thing. It just really depends on the type of personality you have. If you have an entrepreneurial spirit, I would say go for it. If you don't want to do anything but write, then I would say pursue a traditional contract.
I think that's good advice. Let's pivot over to your books, the ones that we've got here that I mentioned earlier. Tell us about Author Life Fix.
Yeah, Author Life Fix is a first in what I hope will be a 5-book series for authors. During like around book 15, this book has been in the works probably for more than 10 years, but I was looking for a way to kind of do a comprehensive audit of my career. I was like, wow, I'm on book 15. I'm still writing. I obviously like it, or I don't know why I'm doing this, but I liked it. And so everything I looked at, everybody gave you like a website audit, a social media audit, but never that comprehensive 360-degree aerial view of your work. And like, how are your covers? Are you writing about subjects that you haven't tackled before? Are you challenging yourself? So I took 15 areas, which include technology, writing efficiency, even self-care and health and wellness as a writer, which is a major sedentary, lifestyle type of thing and very isolating at times. Do you have a tribe? Do you have people that you can find inspiration from? So I just covered 15 areas of the writing life, and they really could be life areas. They don't have to be writing related. They really are life areas. And I kind of like grade yourself. So I take people through a grading system and how to really evaluate, are you getting the most? Could this work better? And could you do some troubleshooting to see what areas need improvement?
I had one author come on the show, and I forget who it was, but he said part of my writing process is staring out the window.
It is. It definitely is. And most people would think that's procrastination. But that to me is really a conditioning and prep for the mind. Anytime you sit down to write and you start sharpening pencils, you start organizing your pen cup, start wiping the little crumbs on your desk, your brain is really subconsciously thinking about what you're going to write. And I do that and I let myself do that. I don't consider it a type of procrastination. I consider it like priming the pump. I'm getting ready. I'm organizing things. And my mind is working in the background to say, okay, this is the scene we're going to write today. These are the characters who are in that scene. These are the things you need to think about. So none of that mindless stuff, whatever you do, whatever ritualistic principles you have is wonderful. Do that, embrace it, and stop fighting it because your brain is actually working in the background to start to come up with those ideas that you're going to work on in a few minutes.
So disability, an anecdotal field guide for the rest of us. What is that one about?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. I have spinal muscular atrophy. The technical term, don't know what it means, just means you have trouble with development of your muscles. I walked until I was about 10 years old, and I walked and used a wheelchair. I could only walk short distances and use crutches and hold onto the wall. And then my muscles became progressively weaker. So I use a wheelchair all day, every day now until it's time to go to bed because I can't walk at all. But I wanted to give, especially parents of children with special needs, children with disabilities, children who are differently abled, whatever we're calling it, at this time in 2024. I wanted to give people some anecdotal advice to help them as they navigate community resources, services, and even doctors and other professionals and practitioners that are going to tell you about the different diagnoses your child has as a person with a disability. And it's really to give other people confidence, to show them what I did. I had a hard time finding employment, being accepted, getting through college, accessibility issues, even depression and other things like that. And so it's really just kind of a manifesto to say that, this is what I encountered, this is how much it sucks, but this is what I did in lieu of that to overcome it and to fight my own bouts of adversity, because everybody has adversity. Everybody, needs a strategy, and we need to be together and read more and even talk to each other about that. And so that's really what the book is. I'm covering 9 topics in that book, such as employment, working with caregivers, um, different things like that. Transportation. I didn't drive until I was in my late 20s, and I had to fight the state to get the funding for my vehicle modifications. So all of that, I hope to have volumes 2, 3, 4, and also bring along other authors with disabilities to tell their stories. So that's the culmination of that book, and already working on volume 2 for that. But it's just really what is what it says: anecdotal advice for the journey.
Okay, is the book geared more towards people with a disability or the family members who might be with them, care for them, or both?
I think it's both, because I am a single Black woman with a disability. I would have loved more advice, more things to read. I read all the articles could coming up, especially when I got out of high school and moving into adulthood, trying to live on my own, trying to navigate support systems, trying to hire caregivers to assist me. So I think that through that, other self advocates, single or married, can find, advice to help them on their journey. And then parents can see, well, what is my child going to go through as they move toward adulthood? What do I need to do, and how can I best assist them? So I talk about my parents. I talk about advocacy classes that I went through, partners in policy making being one of them. It's in every state almost. Maybe there's only 6 states that it's not in. It's an advocacy, 8-month advocacy program to teach you things about speaking up for yourself. So I think it is for both, but I do think parents helping their children will get the most value.
You had mentioned something about a car. So you have a car that can be completely hand controlled?
I do. I have a joystick that I drive up into, and there's a lock on the bottom for my wheelchair, and the seat is gone. I joke that nobody will ever rob me, because they'll be like, "How do I drive this thing?" And they'll just run away, mad that they missed an opportunity. But yeah, so hand controls, everything is modified. It's very expensive. It costs a lot of money. There is vocational rehabilitation dollars sometimes to help you with that, but it can be a fight depending on what state you're in and the obtuseness of your counselor. So I talk about that in my book. I did have a hard time proving to myself, while I saw, other peers of other races seem to get their funding quickly and move forward and on with their life, getting their modified vehicle. I had a fight on my hands, and it was very difficult. It was a very lonely time, but it's so worth it to drive around, to be independent, to go and come when you please, especially when you live in a county that the mass transit isn't that great. And I live in a county where the mass transit isn't that great. So it's important. These freedoms should be, without question, just given to people if they meet the criteria, if they do the training. I trained for 40 hours on my hand controls, and I cried literally every day thinking that I would not be able to pass. I would not be able to pass my driving test. I was just a mess. Like the guy who came, the physical therapist that came and brought his vehicle for me to train on. He really encouraged me, and I really credit him for not letting me give up. But it was a fight. I cried every day. There was a mental hurdle. This is a big vehicle. This is and it's hand controls. You know, you're not used to working with your hands to drive something. We're talking about what, 10 tons? I don't know how much a vehicle weighs, but it's a lot. And one devastating accident, one wrong move or turn could further injure me and devastatingly injure somebody else. So it's a lot. It's not just the driving. 16-year-olds get in the car, think nothing of it. But, as I was mature driving for the first time, about 27 or so, and I actually fought state rehabilitation for 7 years. They denied me like 6 times. Finally, I got a new case manager and he said, okay, you got it. And then they gave me an award, like a tenacity award or something. It was ridiculous. But, I wanted it. I really wanted it so much. And I just kept going, kept moving forward. And I really credit my my PT for helping me and for not giving up on me.
Well, interesting stories. Unfortunately, we do have to wind this down. I told you the 15 minutes would go very quick.
No problem.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
My last question is, do you have a website that you want to give out?
Sure. People can visit me at my name, which is TraceeGarner.com. That's Tracee with 2 E's, if you please, TraceeGarner.com. I'm on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and TikTok. I give some advice for writers on TikTok, and I look forward to hearing from anyone who wants to connect with me at TraceeGarner.com.
Okay. Well, Tracee, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was great meeting you and talking with you. Best of luck.
Thank you.